Next time it rains, really rains, go stand at your window and count. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Your yard will be completely empty. The feeder swinging by itself. The branches still. That robin who's been sitting on your fence post since breakfast? Gone. The sparrow who never shuts up in the hedgerow? Silent. And your brain will do what every human brain does in that moment. They flew away. They found shelter somewhere. They'll come back when it stops. That is the most reasonable thought you've ever had. It is also completely wrong. Those birds didn't go anywhere far. Right now, as you're reading this, as rain hits your windows, there is a world happening 3 meters from your kitchen. A world of precision, survival, and biological intelligence so extraordinary that scientists spent years studying it before they could believe what they were seeing. You've lived next to it your entire life and never once seen it. That changes right now. Here's what they never told you in school. Birds don't just hide from rain. They transform. There is a specific posture, biologists actually gave it a name, the rain posture, and it is one of the most precise physical configurations in the entire animal kingdom. Think about what you do when it rains. You hunch. You pull your hood up. You walk faster. Birds do something far more calculated. The moment a small bird finds its shelter spot, its entire body reorganizes itself like a machine switching modes. The body becomes almost completely vertical, not hunched, vertical. The neck pulls downward until the head nearly touches the chest. Every single feather, and a small bird can have over 3,000 of them, flattens and locks against the body in a sequence that moves from the head downward, like a zip being pulled shut. The wings press against the sides so tightly they become almost invisible. And the feet, this is the part that stops people cold when they first hear it. The feet grip the perch with such force that the bird can fall completely asleep and not fall off. Because there's a tendon in a bird's leg that locks automatically under pressure. The tighter the grip, the more locked it becomes. Gravity itself becomes the safety mechanism. But here's the question you should be asking right now. Why does any of this matter? Why is it so precise? The answer is not what you expect. A small garden bird weighs 14 grams. Pull out a coin. Hold it in your palm. That's the weight of a life making decisions right now in your backyard. 14 grams of warm biology surrounded by cold water. Here's the brutal mathematics of rain. Bird feathers, when perfectly aligned, are nearly waterproof. Water beads and rolls off. The bird stays dry. The bird stays warm. The bird lives. But if one feather shifts out of position, just one, water gets in. Water reaches skin. Skin temperature drops. Body temperature drops. And a bird weighing 14 grams, in a cold rainstorm overnight, can lose enough heat to die before morning. Not from starvation. Not from a predator. From a single feather being 1 millimeter out of place. This is why every movement during a storm is a calculated risk. Every shift of the wing is a potential gap. Every turn of the head is a possible crack in the armor. When birds go still in a storm, it isn't fear. It's physics. They are not waiting for it to end. They are managing their survival with every second that passes. And knowing what's actually happening, makes you look at a rainy garden completely differently. Now here's where it gets specific. And specific is where it gets fascinating. Because every species in your yard has a completely different answer to the same problem. Cardinals, if you have them, have one favorite shelter they return to almost universally. Holly bushes. Biologists studying this found that cardinals and many medium-sized birds seek out dense, evergreen shrubs with thorned edges. Not because they're pretty, because they solve 3 problems simultaneously. Thick leaves block rainfall before it reaches the bird. Thorns keep cats and hawks from reaching in. And the density of the foliage traps the bird's own body heat, turning the inside of the bush into something warmer than the air outside. It is, in 1 square meter of your backyard, a house with a roof, walls, and central heating. No holly? That cardinal is in a dense boxwood. An evergreen juniper. A low cypress. Always dense evergreen. Never a tree with wide-spaced leaves, because wide leaves are just a leaking roof. Now small birds. Chickadees, titmice, wrens, nuthatches. They do something even more remarkable. They disappear inside things. A chickadee can survive a 12-hour storm inside a hole the size of a coin. Just that. A small hollow in an old tree. A gap between roof tiles. A cavity behind loose bark. The reason is mathematical and almost beautiful. A space that's small, with one bird inside it, heats up from the bird's own body temperature within minutes. The inside of that tiny hole can be 15 to 20 degrees warmer than the air outside. For a 14-gram body that is fighting to stay warm every single second, 20 degrees is not a comfort. 20 degrees is the difference between waking up alive and not waking up at all. That chickadee at your feeder every sunny morning? It likely spent last night's storm inside a hole 3 meters from your window that you have walked past 100 times without noticing. You ready for this part? Small birds don't always shelter alone. In severe storms, something happens that scientists had to document with cameras before they could publish it, because the behavior seemed almost too human. They called it communal roosting. But the internet correctly calls it the pajama party. Here's what happens. Birds that spend all day competing. Birds that chase each other off feeders. Birds that have defined territories and fight to defend every inch of them. When a serious storm hits at night, they find a cavity, a nest box, a large tree hollow, and they pile in together. 9 eastern bluebirds. In one nest box. Birds that would never share space on a sunny afternoon. Pressed together in the dark while rain hammers the roof above them. But that is not even close to the record. The record belongs to a tiny bird from western North America called the pygmy nuthatch. Researchers documented, and the number is real, over 100 pygmy nuthatches packed into a single tree cavity during one cold, stormy night. 100 birds. One hole in a tree. The temperature inside that cavity was 20 degrees Celsius warmer than outside. And then, when morning came and the rain stopped, they filed out. One by one. Went back to their individual territories. Resumed their daily arguments over seeds and perches. As though the night had never happened. Every storm, the rules of the day are suspended. Every storm, enemies become blankets. And every morning after, the social contract resets. This happens in backyards all across the country. Probably yours. Now here's the part that flips everything you just learned. Some birds don't shelter from rain. They hunt it. Watch your yard during a rainstorm, and I mean actually watch, not a quick glance, and you'll likely see one bird still on the ground. Moving slowly. Unhurried. Almost peaceful. A robin. A robin standing in your rain-soaked lawn during a downpour is not confused. It is not lost. It is at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Here's the ecology behind it. When rain soaks into soil, it floods the tunnels that earthworms live in. Worms can't breathe underwater. They have one option: surface. For a robin, rain doesn't signal danger. Rain signals dinner. Robins in a rainstorm catch earthworms at nearly double their normal rate. The worms can't hide. They can't retreat. The rain delivers them to the surface like an involuntary offering. This is why a robin in a storm looks calm. Is not brave, is not reckless, is doing math. And the math says, every other bird just cleared the competition, the prey is surfacing by the thousands, and the buffet is open. Hummingbirds present an entirely different impossibility. By every logical assumption, a hummingbird should be the most vulnerable bird in a storm. They weigh less than a nickel. Their wings beat 50 times per second. But here's the engineering that makes them almost unstoppable. Their feathers have a microscopic structure that repels water better than almost any other bird species. And their wing beat is so fast, so relentlessly fast, that raindrops physically cannot land on their bodies. They fly between the drops. Not metaphorically, literally. High-speed cameras have captured this. And because their metabolism burns so intensely that they need to feed every 15 to 20 minutes, they cannot afford to hide. Going still for even a few hours is not an inconvenience for a hummingbird. Could be fatal. So they keep flying. Between the drops. In the storm. At your flowers and feeders. If you've never watched a hummingbird feed in the rain, you've missed one of the most quietly miraculous things a backyard can offer. Here is the piece that took researchers at Cornell University 2 full years to document. They tagged chickadees with miniature transmitters and tracked where each bird went during every storm over a 2-year period. What they found was this. The same bird used the same hole in the same tree during every single storm. Not most storms. Every storm. It didn't explore. It didn't try alternatives. It didn't upgrade when something better appeared. It went to the exact location it had already chosen, and it stayed there. 2 years later, that same bird was still using the same shelter. Let that settle for a moment. The hedge at the edge of your yard. The gap in your fence. The old tree with the hollow branch you keep meaning to cut down. The loose tile above your garden shed. These are not random features of your property. They are fixed addresses. They belong to specific birds who chose them, possibly years ago, and return to them every single time the sky turns dark and the rain begins. The chickadee you watch every morning at your feeder almost certainly spent last Tuesday's storm inside a hole you have never noticed, 3 meters from where you drink your coffee. Your backyard is not a yard. It is a map. And every single shelter on that map has an owner. You've been living on top of it without knowing it existed. Now that you know the map is real, here's how to make it better. Leave one dense evergreen shrub untrimmed. Holly, boxwood, juniper, low cypress, anything with thick, year-round leaves. To you, it's just a shrub. To a cardinal or a mourning dove, it is a storm shelter that may be the difference between surviving a February night and not. Don't remove old nest boxes after breeding season ends. A box that looks empty in January is very likely hosting 5 or 6 birds pressed together on every cold, rainy night. Empty looking does not mean unused. Leave old tree hollows alone if they're not dangerous. Every cavity in an old tree is a potential hotel room. You cannot see the guest registry. That doesn't mean the rooms aren't booked. Stop trimming dense shrubs in autumn. When you cut them back to bare branches right before winter, you are removing roofs from houses. The birds will survive. Birds are extraordinarily adaptable, but you are making their survival harder for the sake of tidiness. And finally, and this is the most important one, stop assuming a tidy yard is a better yard for birds. The corner your neighbors consider messy, the overgrown patch you feel slightly embarrassed about, that is a survival zone. The most valuable thing you can offer the birds in your yard is often the thing your most house-proud neighbor would consider a flaw. So the next time the first drops hit, the next time you watch your yard empty in 30 seconds, don't think they left. Think, they're home. 3 meters away in the hole you never noticed, in the bush you almost trimmed last weekend, in the cavity behind the bark of that old tree. They are there. Each one locked into their rain posture, every feather sealed, every tendon gripped. Some of them alone in a space barely bigger than your fist. Some of them pressed together with birds they'll be fighting tomorrow morning. Some of them still moving, still hunting, flying between the drops. Your yard didn't empty. Your yard went underground. The life is still there. It's just in the walls now, in the cracks, in the corners that have been learning how to survive long before you ever moved in. And when the rain stops, when they come back out one by one, shake their feathers and go straight back to your feeder like nothing happened, you'll know something you didn't know before. They weren't waiting for the storm to end. They were always exactly where they needed to be. You just finally know where to look.